Okay, welcome to our second lesson on solving equations. We're going to do two examples that are a little bit more complicated than the previous ones. So, the first example is this. 2x minus 2 divided by 3 equals 2x plus 23 divided by 15. So there's our equation, and what we have to do, we have to find out what is the value of x so that this equation is true. So what we need to do is rearrange this equation, move the parts of this equation around so we've got it finally in the form of x equals some number. So that's what we're going to do. Remember, when we're doing this, the rule is whatever we do to one side of an equation, we must do to the other, otherwise our scales fall out of balance. So the very first step I'm going to do then is just rewrite the equation over here under our scales. So over here we've got 2x minus 2 divided by 3, and that is equal to 2x plus 23 divided by 15. The very first thing to do is to see if we can cancel down any numbers. Are there any factors, in other words, numbers that are multiplying by everything on the top or dividing by the whole on the bottom, that we could cancel out? Well, 2 doesn't go into 15 as a whole number, so we can't really cancel those. And there's no factor on the top here that's out the front at the moment, so we can't really cancel there either. So we're going to go to the next step, and the next step is to get rid of the denominators. So we're going to firstly get rid of the 3. So we're going to move the denominators and once we've done both of these denominators, we've removed this one and this one, then it'll become much easier to solve. So let's have a go. So if I want to now get rid of this 3 here, it's dividing all of this by 3. So I need to do the opposite, which is I need to multiply by 3 to get rid of it. But whatever I do to the left-hand side of the equation, I must also do to the right. So what I'm going to do then, I'm going to multiply this whole side of the equation by 3. Now I've got to put it in brackets to remind myself that everything here is being multiplied by 3. If I didn't have the brackets, it would just be 3. The 3 would just be multiplying the 2x, and that's not what I want. So I'm multiplying this side by 3. I also need to multiply this side by 3 to keep my scales in balance. So the next line is we now clean up. We now work out what we've just done. So this is going to be that 3 cancelling with this 3. So on the left-hand side, we now have 2x minus 2. And because there's no other numbers, I don't need the brackets anymore. And that equals, now 3 times 2 is 6. So this is actually 6x plus 23 divided by 15. See what's happened? We've now removed the 3 as a denominator. Let's try the same with the 15. So what do I need to do? I need to look at what the 15 is doing to the rest of the equation, and it's dividing. So I have to do the opposite. And the opposite is to multiply. So to multiply this side by 15 so that they will then cancel. But remember, I also have to multiply this side by 15, the whole side. So once again, I need to bring some brackets back to indicate that I'm multiplying 15 by everything inside those brackets. Okay, so the next step is to now work out what we've just done and clean it up. So this is going to be 15 bracket 2x minus 2 equals, now these 15s cancel, so I've now got 6x plus 23. Okay, so now we've removed the denominators. The next step is to, because we've got brackets here, we need to expand them. So we need to expand the brackets. And that's something we learned earlier on this year. Just to give you a quick memory jog, when you're multiplying out brackets, then everything outside the bracket is multiplied by everything inside the bracket. So it's going to be 15 times 2x, and then 15 times negative 2, and over here it's going to be 6 times x, and then 6 times 23. So let's work that out. So 15 times 2 is 30. So the first term there is going to be 30x. 15 times negative 2 is negative 30. So it's going to be 30x minus 30. And that equals 6 times x is 6x. And 6 times 23 is 138. 6 times 2 is 6 times 20 is 120. 6 3s are 18, so it's 138. So plus 138. All right, that's starting to look a little bit easier, similar to one of the ones we had to solve in our last program. The next step is to get the x's onto one side of the equation and all the numbers on the other. And to make things easier for yourselves, it's always best to look for the biggest positive value for x and move all the other x's to join it. So in other words, if I'm comparing my 30x to 6x, 30x is bigger, it's more positive, and so I'm going to leave that where it is. I'm going to move the 6x over to join it. So I'm going to move my 6x to the other side. So I need to get rid of the 6x from this side. So it's actually adding to the 138. So to get rid of it, I need to do the opposite, which is to subtract. So I'm going to subtract 6x from this side. But therefore, I also have to subtract it from this side. And we can now clean it up. 30x take away 6x is 24x. Minus 30 equals, they cancel, 138. All right. The next step is to now get all the numbers onto the right-hand side. Well, I've got 138 over here already. I now need to move the negative 30. So the 30, that's a negative 30. So to get rid of it, I need to add 30 to both sides. And so plus 30 and plus 30. And I'm running out of room here, so I'll just move it over here. So that's going to be, well, they're going to cancel. So we're left with 24x equals 138 plus 30, which is 168. Right, so to get the x on its own, I need to get rid of the number in front of it, which is 24. And they're multiplying. That 24 is multiplying by the x. So to get rid of the 24, I need to do the opposite of multiply, which is to divide. So I need to divide that by 24. But of course, I need to divide this side by 24 as well. And so they cancel. And on the right-hand side, we've got 168 divided by 24. And if you work that out, that equals exactly 7. So we've got x equals 7. And that is our solution. Now, what does that mean? That means that this mathematical statement over here, this side equaling this side, will only be equal, it will only be a true statement when the x value is 7. If x is any other number, then that will not be a true equation. It's only true when x equals 7. So we've found the number that x has to be to make this equation true. And that's what it is. All right, our next equation is going to be a little bit more challenging again. Let's have a go. I'll just clear this. 2x plus 5 over 5 equals 7, 2x plus 2 over 12. Okay, now once again, we've got to rearrange this and work out what the value of x is to make this equation true. The first thing to do is to see if we can quickly cancel out any numbers to make things simpler. 2 doesn't go into 5, 7 doesn't go into 12, so no, we can't cancel. So the very next step is to get rid of the denominators. Now hopefully you remember from the last example how we do that. Have a go at doing it yourself first and then continue the video to confirm that you're correct. All right, we're going to get rid of the 5 first. And we need to look at what is the 5 doing? Well, the 5 is dividing. So to get rid of it, we need to multiply. So I need to multiply this side by 5. But whatever I do to the one side of the equation, I must do to the other. So I need to multiply this side by 5 as well. So once we've indicated what we're doing, and notice how I'm setting this out, I've shown what I'm actually going to do. The next line is then working it out, cleaning it up. So 5 cancels with this 5. So we're left with, on the left-hand side, 2 bracket x plus 5 equals 5 times 7. 7 times 5 is 35. So that's going to be 35 2x plus 2 over 12. Right, so we've got rid of the 5 denominator. Now we're going to get rid of the 12. Now hopefully you'll be able to work out how to do that. And to get rid of the 12, because the 12 is now dividing, we need to get rid of it by doing the opposite, which is multiply. So I need to multiply by 12. But because I've done it on this side of the equation, I must do it to this side as well. Otherwise my scales tip over. So now I'm multiplying both sides by 12. So I've indicated what I'm doing. I've shown you what I'm actually going to do. Now I need to do it. And I need to write that out as the next step. So 12 times 2 is 24. Bracket x plus 5. And that equals 12's cancel. It's going to be 35 times 2x plus 2. Okay, so now we've got rid of the denominators. That was the very first thing to do, to get rid of those denominators. The next thing to do is expand the brackets. So we'll just write those steps in again so that we can remember. The first step was to remove the denominators. So we've done that. The next step is to expand the brackets. So remember, it's going to be 24 times x plus 24 times 5, then 35 times 2x plus 35 times 2. So if we work those out, this is what we'll get. So 24 times x is 24x plus 24 times 5, Well, 24 times 5 is 120. So it's 120. And that equals 35 times 2x, which is 70x. And 35 times 2 is 70. So now I've expanded the brackets. The next thing to do is to collect our like terms. So collect or group our like terms, which means get the x terms on one side of the equation and the numbers on the other. Now, I'm going to look at the x's first. I'm looking at both my x values. I've got 70x over here and 24x over here. The 70x is bigger, so I'm going to keep that one where it is. I'm going to move the 24 to greet it. So we're going to move our 24x over here. Now, that is actually positive 24x. In order to get rid of it, so it's 24x plus 120. So to get rid of it, I need to subtract. I need to subtract 24x. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to minus 24x from this side, which means I also have to minus 24x from this side. So that's what I'm doing. So now the next line is I actually work all that out. So 24x, take away 24x, they just cancel. So we're left with positive 120 equals 70x, take away 24x is 46x plus 70. So now I want to move my number to the other side of the equation. So my 46 is over here on the right, so I need to move this positive 70 over to the left. It's positive 70, so to get rid of it, we need to subtract 70. But we'll do it to both sides. So continuing over here. So over here we've got 120 take away 70, which is 50. So on the left-hand side of our equation, we've got 50 equals 46x and 70 take away 70 cancel. So we're nearly there. The last step is to move the number in front of the x so that the x is on its own. So it's 46 times x, so we need to move that 46. And the opposite of timesing is dividing, so I need to divide both sides by 46. So I need to divide this by 46, and of course I need to do it to this side as well. So they cancel, and 50 divided by 46 equals 1.087, I beg your pardon. So 1.087 equals x.